This pie crust is simple and easy to make, and it makes a lovely flaky pie crust. It's made with all butter for excellent flavor and is perfect for all of your pies. Hi, I'm Lindsay from Life, Love, and Sugar, and today we're making a homemade pie crust. So for this pie crust, you could do it by hand or you could use a food processor. I personally like the ease of the food processor. Plus, part of what we're gonna do today is use really cold butter in our crust and get that nice flaky crust by layering bits of butter into the pastry. And so in order to do that properly, you need cold butter. So I like the food processor because it goes more quickly, doesn't give your butter a chance to soften as much when you're working it by hand, but you can do it either way. So I'm gonna grab my food processor. We are gonna add half of our, well, a little more than half of our flour. It's about 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and some salt. And we will pulse this together a few times just to get it all mixed together. We want this butter to be nice and cold, but we also cut it into small pieces so that it cuts into the flour more quickly and easily. We also don't want to overwork the flour and have too much gluten formation, which will give you a tough crust. All right, so we're going to process this for maybe 15 to 30 seconds until all the butter fully coats the flour. That coating of the flour is going to help prevent the gluten formation as we add the rest of the flour and have our pie crust come together. So it'll start to get kind of sandy looking and really be broken up. You want to keep going until it actually comes together and starts to form larger clumps, because that's when you know all the flour is really coated by the butter. All right, so we've got some nice clumps in here. It's starting to look like the flour is pretty well coated by the butter. And now we'll add the rest of our flour. All right, so we're just gonna pulse this together a few times until it has that sandy look and things look like they're evenly distributed. You don't want a bunch of really big chunks of butter at this point. All right, so it looks a little bit sandy-like. You don't have any massive bits. It's all kind of evenly dispersed. All right, so now we're gonna add our cold water. I actually have ice in the water to make sure it's ice cold, because again, we're trying to keep this butter nice and cold so it creates lovely layers in our pie crust and gives us that flaky crust when it bakes. So I'm gonna start with 4 tablespoons of water. We're just gonna kind of gently fold all this together. And what you're looking for is to be able to kind of pinch some of this together and have it hold together nicely without crumbling apart. So you can use your spatula or your hand. You can turn it out onto some parchment paper if you need to, but we want to work this dough together into one big ball. So now we've got our dough all together in one big ball. This actually will make 2 pie crusts, so we want to cut it in half. You can actually see all the flaky layers starting to develop in there. They're there, so we're going to flatten this out a little bit, form a nice disc. You don't want to start kneading this and working it together like crazy, because that's going to cause you to lose all those layers. You just want to press it down into a nice disc shape. All right, so now we can grab some plastic wrap and wrap these individually and place them in the fridge for an hour or so they can firm up a little bit, make sure that butter is staying nice and cold, and then we can roll out our pie crust. All right, so after your pie crust has been chilling for at least an hour, maybe even a couple of days, you can pull it out and get ready to roll it. You can take your pie crust and roll it out in between 2 pieces of parchment paper. All right, so to check and see if I've rolled it out enough, I'll usually take my pie plate that I'm gonna use and kind of hold it over the top of the crust and see if I've got 1 inch to 1.5 inches of pie crust sticking out around the outside, because then I know I'll have enough to like crimp the edges or do something decorative once I transfer it to my pie plate. Even though the parchment is non-stick, it sticks well enough that we can actually lift it and move it over. All right, and now we will work the crust down into our pie plate. All right, so at this point you can decorate the edges however you like. I'm gonna roll them under and flute them. One thing that you can do that's really simple is just kind of trim this off a little so it's nice and even, and just use a fork to press some lines into it. That's a nice easy way. If you don't want to go through all the trouble of this, or maybe you get your pie crust on here and realize you don't have quite enough. The other option is, since this makes 2 crusts, if you don't need the second one right away, you could use the second one to cut some extra pie strips and actually add them to the pie on the edges, and then use that to roll it under. And there you go, you have your pie crust. From this point, you kind of want to follow your recipe. It depends on the particular pie and what you're doing. You may blind bake it, you may not. I'm going to show you how to blind bake it real quick. And so before I do that, I'm going to pop it in the fridge, let it firm up a little bit. Again, we want to keep that butter nice and cold. And once we put our pie weights in, we don't want it to mess up the beautiful work we've done on our pie crust. So I'm going to chill this for 20 or 30 minutes, and then I'll show you how to blind bake it. All right, so in order to blind bake your pie crust, you're gonna wanna use some kind of pie weights or something that actually holds the crust down while it bakes. Otherwise, it'll puff up like crazy and give you problems. Plus, you wanna actually be able to keep the sides in place while it's setting so they don't just slide down the sides of your pie plate. So you can actually buy like little balled pie weights. I personally actually like just using rice. So I've got a bag of rice that is used for this purpose exclusively. And I use parchment paper. So again, your pie crust is nice and firm, so we can put all this stuff in here and it's not gonna mess up what we've already done in the beautiful pie work. So we're gonna set this down into our pie and add our pie weights or rice, whatever you're using. So all these little divots here, I'm gonna work that parchment paper and the rice into those areas and make sure that we're keeping things in place while it bakes. All right, so once you have that all set up, you're gonna wanna bake it. Depending on whether or not your recipe calls for a partial blind bake or a full blind bake, you're gonna do it a little bit differently. For partial, you'll bake it for maybe 20 to 25 minutes until it's kinda nice and lightly golden on the edges, because you will keep baking it later since it's a partial bake. You'll remove this, add your filling most likely, you'll wanna follow your recipe, and then finish baking it. For a full blind bake, you'll do the 20 to 25 minutes, remove this, and then bake it for maybe another 5 minutes until it's fully baked. That's gonna be something for like a filling where you don't actually bake the filling. So you need the pie crust fully baked before you add the filling. So we will go ahead and pop this in the oven. All right, so once your pie crust is baked, whether it's a partial bake or a full bake, it'll be ready to go for your pies. It's a delicious flaky pie. I love the flavor from the all butter crust. For the full recipe, head over to lifeloveandsugar.com.